Hello everybody, it's your favorite West Virginia out in space here, and as a rule, generally speaking, I don't like to talk about other YouTubers on this channel outside the occasional spirit science thing a while back, and that's mostly because I don't generally like YouTube drama, and as a general rule, if there's some YouTuber who I generally hate or has something I would criticize, there's usually some other YouTuber already doing it, whose audience is built around that, it has a much wider reach than me and all that jazz. So generally speaking, I'm just content to whatever stupid YouTubers I have to see get taken down by someone else, or at least exposed, or, that kind of thing, or criticized, or however you want to word that. However, this one, probably due to his size, hasn't really seemed to have gotten that treatment yet, and quite frankly, his takes are so bad, his opinions and arguments so questionable, that in all honesty, somebody had to do this, and, well, no one else seemed to, so I guess it's my job now. This YouTuber in question is, of course, if you click on the video, the Aristocratic Utensil. I believe I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. But for the entire video, I'm going to call him Spoonhead, because that's what I like better, and it's funnier, and I can say that easier. Anyway, Spoonhead is a monarchist, and that's fine. I don't particularly like the philosophy, but, to each his own. But he's also a really bad monarchist, a raging sexist, pretty sure he's racist, I'm 95% sure on that one, and overall has some of the worst argument skills I've seen on the internet, which is saying quite a lot. So ultimately in this video, we're going to go over why he's so bad, debunk some of his points, and of course, show how he is actually a raging hypocrite. Also, before Spoonhead or one of his allies tries to make a little point here, I am a white, straight Christian male, just like Spoonhead himself. So any attack he tries to use on any of those against me will, of course, fail because, well, we share the same thing. So don't even try that. Although, funny enough, I am direct descendant of William the Conqueror, so, king me. The first point on him we're going to debunk today is his hatred of women, or more accurately, because he really just hates women. Like, his thoughts on women are very, very low, raging sexist and all. And, he openly calls women lesser than men, which I don't think I need to explain why that's bad, but I will, because, we're all people, funny enough. You, me, men, women, doesn't matter. We're all humans. We have that basic level of being a human. But people like him want to take that away because they're weirdos, and probably never grew past that kid stage where it's ew, cuties, I don't want to be around girls. They just never grew out of that. Really, at all. He comes off exactly like that, just with more words and a British accent. And it gets even worse because, he only has two pieces of proof to make his point, and both of them are terrible. One is that he'll bring up that men are, on average, physically stronger than women, which falls into the fallacy of an average is still an average. It doesn't mean every member of a group. And second of all, what is it about physical strength automatically makes that individual better than someone who is less physically strong? Sure, if you need something to be lifted, or some other physical activity, yeah, you want that guy. But, it doesn't really imply a moral judgment or a higher value of character. Another point he often uses is quotes from Queen Victoria or the anti-women suffragette movement, which is not very good points, to be honest, for two reasons. One is that, well, you're kind of using women who lived in a society that constantly told them they were lesser than men, so they absorbed it in, so they'd probably be biased to some degree. But even worse, if his whole point that he constantly makes that women are not logical beings that can't have rational thought, really, which he says, that would, why are you using their logic then? Because by that logic, it's like the statement of this statement is false. It's that you can't trust it either way. So he's not even making a good argument. It just doesn't work. He also has this weird obsession that women have, the men have more body standards than, women do. And, society and culture is a big mess with multiple groups and all that jazz. But, women still have a lot of body standards and pretty objectively more than men. A lot. So that's not even a good point. Overall, he's just a sexist, and it's just weird, man. I just don't, I really hope to some degree that he's never been with a woman, because I feel really bad for that woman. Videos that illustrate this point well, that he does, showing off this, are Operation Save the Lesbians, male standards are insanely high, good, keep it that way, and That Way, a Rant. Oh, and the video, ladies haven't thought through this at all. Just look at all those videos for good proof of how he's a sexist, if you don't believe me. The next point we're getting into is his racism, which is a little bit more concealed, as in he doesn't make whole videos explaining how exactly that one group sucks, but he is almost certainly a racist. Because, like, listen, okay, culture and society is a very complex thing, and most people will say this society or culture is better. And that's, true. I have my own biases, too. I'll say this nation is better than that one, as quick as the other guy. But the thing at the end of the day isn't that he has an opinion on culture or society, is that he links them to race, like, in a very weird, obviously messed up way. Like, for example, in the video I'll say, down here, that he openly says, like, compares that, like, a random, like, structure in Africa, compares it to European structures or Asian structures, and then uses that as a judgment standard against the intelligence of all Africans. It's like, no, that's not how that works. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, it's one of these examples of underplaying the accomplishments of other cultures. Like, do I even need to bring up the pyramids? Do I need to bring that up in Africa? So, checkmate there. But, second of all, it's a classic example of underplaying the achievements of other cultures or races or however you want to do that, and overplaying them of Europe. I like Europe a lot, European culture, at least until America showed up. But, like, Europe is not the center of culture. It's not like this peak of culture and society. Europe was late to the civilization game as far as we can tell. Kingdoms like in Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Central America had existed long before our first real European kingdom showed up. And even when you had kingdoms like Rome, which were, of course, incredibly impressive, they fell into the Dark Ages and, stayed there for a long time, where they were not the places of innovation and culture in a lot of ways. That was more the Islamic world or even Asia. Europe really didn't shine to prominence in a truly special way until around the Renaissance. Now, granted, Europe has always had its own traits, but to act as if Europe has always been intrinsically better than the rest of the world is just an incorrect statement and racist. It's just a false thing. Anyway, videos that show this point very well are the inconvenient truth about affirmative action, and a few others sprinkled around, but that's like the prime video to show it off. Now, this fourth part, culture, is more broad, and it's going to cover a whole grab bag of different points that kind of all have to be explained into one thing at once, but I think just trust me on this one, okay? So, obviously, he's a monarchist, but his reasons for why people should do monarchy are kind of insane. First of all, he doesn't actually give a good argument. His only argument for why monarchy is good is a king will always protect his people, is always invested in the good of his people, which is just not true. I feel like any crack into a European history textbook should show that. Like, do we need to count the number of petty wars, conflicts, and corruption in the royalty across the world to easily prove that point false? Like, granted, there's corruption in other forms of government, but you can't just make blatant statements like that because they're just false. It would be like me saying republics never have corruption. They are always good and the politicians always love their people. That's just not true. It's just not a statement of reality that I can back up because it's false. And this brings me to another point, is that his hatred of republics. Like, he hates republics/democracies with a fiery passion. If you don't like that form of government, whatever, to each their own. But, like, his reasons just get kind of dumb. Like, he just goes on how they're always corrupt. And also another weird corruption inconsistency he makes is that he says that they've only existed for around 100 years, which is just false. America has been around for 200. There's the city-state of Venice. There were the ancient Greek city-states. There were several other things across the world that could be called republics at various points. So they aren't something that was only invented 100 years ago. They've changed forms, of course, but that's still not true to say they're new. Also, he keeps saying that republics only corrupt the nations they're in and never lead to prosperity and all that jazz, which is also not true because you have countries like America who went from at best a regional power when it was born to a full-on global superpower of unquestionable might. So, yeah, and it was a republic the entire time. So your argument is not true. Also, this bleeds into a different point where he just really hates America. Like, seriously, his hatred of America goes well and beyond I've seen other YouTubers who hate America, to the point of pure absurdity. Like, dude, you swear that every American personally pissed in his Cheerios. Like, seriously. Like, dude, stop crying. Also, you keep using that generic joke that America don't know the rest of the world, but we sure seem to be able to find you guys when you need us to bail you out of a war. But ultimately, he has this weird idea about left and right politics that just doesn't make sense. I mean, the whole concept of left and right politics is kind of silly as it is, as it's purely a subjective point where the middle is. And it shows great here because he just sets everyone who basically oppose him as a leftist, and then you can say everyone who's a leftist is false. It's literally just the same argument people who say everyone who disagrees with me is a Nazi. It's the same thing. He's doing the same thing, just in a different order. And ultimately, if I was a monarchist, I would distance myself far away from this guy because he's terrible image for you. Because he has such a poor understanding of culture and history to show that he isn't an educated individual like he so likes to act he is. Oh, and videos that easily show off this point are Why Society is Losing Its Mind, A Missing King, and Dear Americans. Now, for the last part, which is the part that really ended up making me make this video, is his intellectual dishonesty and his hypocrisy. To get to the intellectual dishonesty, quick, is how he actually structures his video. A lot of his structures are started off something like, if I would argue around the start, they're usually based around a more reasonable point, because despite all my insulting, he can make a good point every now and again. He does occasionally speak truth. The thing is, he uses that truth to manipulate his audience. He'll say something that is true, and then blur the line of that between his subjective opinion at a point that does not work or make sense, and then he just goes to straight out lie territory, basically tricking his audience into thinking that, oh, because he said this one thing that is true, it must mean the rest of what he says is true. And he doesn't do it in intellectually honest way. He's very scummy about it. And it doesn't help that he also, has a massive ego, which, I have a bit of an ego myself sometimes, but, he has it to the point that he doesn't believe he can ever be wrong. And, dude, anyone can be wrong. I've been wrong. I'll probably say something accidentally wrong in this video at some point, too, because I'm not a perfect individual. But the point at the end of the day is that he obviously can be wrong, as I will cite through all the things I just did. But here's the big kahunas. The big thing is that one of the biggest things he'll say from the I have the video proof when he said it is from the video just some guy goes just some stupid, is that he'll intellectually debate people, he'll discuss things, all this jazz, right? Except he won't. He's a hypocrite and a liar when he has to act, when people actually question what he thinks or gives reasons or demand a point from him. He actually doesn't do it. Just goes straight to the insults. How do I know this? Because I commented under several of his videos, either asking for clarification on things, asking a question, or demanding some kind of explanation, as a commenter should. And if you actually look at them, he doesn't actually give an answer to any of them. He just goes straight to insults. He goes straight to petty arguments or dismounts any person who says that, any point that someone gives against him, he just dismisses through some weird argument, or tries to dismiss by calling me a simp or something like that, or saying this or that. And at the end of the day, that's not an intellectually honest debate. It's making up a point about your opponent, saying that, oh, because of this point I made up, you are now somehow, all your points somehow don't make sense, even though you didn't answer any of the points. And this shows that he's not intellectual, he's not a rational individual, and he's not someone who's actually clever or thinks he's smart. Or he thinks he's smart, but he's not someone you should look up to. He's not someone you should think as a critical thinker. He is not someone who is a wise individual giving wisdom, or someone who's thought about the way of the world and has come to his own opinion. He's just a jerk. And quite frankly, he probably just wants the idea of an absolute king, just so he can sit at the top of the throne, no one questions him, and everyone has to listen to his order. I don't think he's actually really thought that far. I'm more subscribing that's what his deep philosophy is, that even he's probably not fully aware of. And ultimately, this is why. Because scammers like this, charlatans like this, will say whatever they want to get what they want. They will manipulate the truth to show their point, to try to prove how they are correct, and you should listen to them and only them. He's really a scam artist, really. He's not, like I said, he's not a very wise person. He's definitely no refined gentleman. He's just a very not smart individual claiming to be one. And ultimately, that's all he is. And I'm sure he'll come up with some pathetic insult to get back at me. But you know what? I always want him. Because, well, just look at the proof. Because unlike you, I can actually give proof to prove my arguments. Funny how that works out, isn't it? But ultimately, that's just my opinion. What's your thoughts? Do you think Spoonhead's in the right? You think I'm in the right? You think I got something wrong, or did I get it right in the money? Ultimately, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And as such, I will see you all next time. Yeah. Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're going to become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.